Yep, still laid up in bed, but it gives me more opportunities to watch horror movies. And the She-Ra cartoon series. It's actually really good. Oh man, it's another COFOH Live Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing Xander Smith. But first,
Do I have something on my face?
Xander, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Good, good. It's good to see you. You're the offspring of some of my partners.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Brett and Jeannie are your parents, and you've got an amazing career doing concept art out
Yeah,
in
thank you.
for feature films that everybody has just been enjoying. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We kind of have an idea now because of me and all the bullshit that I spew. Of where you come from, but in your own words, tell us where you come from and how you got into art.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very fortunate. So yeah, I'm out in Los Angeles at the moment, actually in Colorado, but yeah, I've spent the last decade in Los Angeles working on films, television, everything from 3D printing to illustration. I've dabbled in fashion.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. What do you think? You want to start from the kind of beginning, the first job, or what kind of background you want to know?
Yeah, tell us about your early years. What it was like. Growing up. Doing art. Trying to be creative, and how you got into the direction that you went.
Yeah, definitely. All right, one thing we got to get out of the way, though. This is super important. You have to tell me what the background is that I'm looking at.
The background. So let me kind of remove.
There we go.
Seal. Yeah. Can you see it? Did you see it?
I can't hear you, though. 1 second.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes. After you shared that the photo, I lost audio on you, man.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Okay. But you saw the image, right?
Can't hear nothing.
You can't hear nothing now?
Here, 1 sec. Let me hop back in.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, no. Do we? Huh. Do we lose you? There we go. All right. Well, we're going to wait a second for Xander to jump back, in with us. Unfortunately, he lost audio, but yeah, hang in there for just a second. By the way, out there in internet land, how are you? How are you doing? All right.
Back in. Check on your end, though. I think something got muted on yours. You can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you, but you can't hear me?
Let's see. Yeah, the second you went to the photo that I want to hear so much about, I lost audio on you.
Okay, but can you hear me now? No. Oh, no. That's no good.
All right. Anything?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. You can't hear me? Oh, weird.
Yeah, one sec. Let me see. Sorry, everyone, about the technical difficulty. I don't know if you would hear about that photo so badly. Oh, there we go. I just got it back. Yeah, okay. For whatever reason, I have another monitor behind me, and I just unplugged that monitor. I don't know why when we went to full screen, it decided to cut my audio.
Okay. No worries. We won't do that again. Yeah. Brian was nice enough to intercept and say, "Hey, I can hear you both."
Brian, good. I've known Brian since I was probably a couple of days after I was born.
No kidding. Okay, so family friend. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome to see him pop up in the chat. What's up, Brian? Yeah, sorry about that. Don't worry. We're gonna talk some really crazy stuff to make up for that moment of technical difficulty, because I know those suck on podcasts. All right, I'm gonna give you my origin story, but I gotta hear the origin story of this freaky skull prosthetic. I hope it's a prosthetic.
It's not a prosthetic. It's more of a prop. I'm not a makeup guy. I don't like. I've got a weird thing. I don't like touching other people's skin in that intimacy. So yeah, that's my. But yeah, tell us about your XMen Origins, Xander.
All right. Origin stories. So, I mean, yeah, I've been designing, creating things from, basically the second I could pick up a pencil. I think it's just like from the second I started creating, probably as an infant, my parents were super encouraging. Nice. And I just started designing. At a certain point, it got off the rails and went into the freaky stuff that brings me here. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they encouraged it. I was doing, sculpture, painting, drawing, whatever I could get my hands on. I just wanted to create things. Realized, probably sometime in high school that the greatest area of expression is like film, television, especially with the advent of VFX. Yeah. And so, organized a deal with my parents to, help pay for my schooling in Hollywood. I went to the Millman School of Visual Effects, the Concept Design Academy, learned all about 3D, design, illustration, all those good things. Kept me to the grindstone for, 3 years going through there. And then the first job is actually a pretty cool story. So one of the first, major features I was on was Ryan Murphy's Scream Queen. So Ryan Murphy is the creator of American Horror Story. I think it's his big fame. But he has a ton of incredible series. But so he was doing this kind of, kind of horror rom-com television series called Scream Queens. And so they had this design for a Red Devil costume. And there were elements of it that needed to be like very fashionable, from the fashion world. It had to be a little bit campy, like a college mascot. But it also had to be like cool, right? So that's kind of three very kind of challenging things to bring all together, which is like, that's my bread and butter. I like challenging design, problems. So I got contacted by a studio called AFX Studio. And it turns out that AFX Studio, the owner, his name is David Anderson, and his wife, Heather Langenkamp, which you might recognize. Yep. Yeah, because she is one of the original Scream Queens. She played the main female lead in Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Yeah. And it turns out that my dad actually met her at a horror convention. And at the time, this was like a few years prior, and so he meets her. My dad's, super nice, really cool, gets along with everyone. Yes. And so he's talking with Heather, and he's like, just goes out on a limb, right? He's like, okay, I know you own this, or she brings up talking about this studio. I don't think my dad even know. They have an award-winning makeup effects studio, AFX. And she's telling my dad about this, and my dad's like, this is a shot in the dark, but my son, he's first year in college. He's working on, concept art, design, 3D. If you ever, needed something from him, he'd love to, contact. Just totally out on a limb, right? And so she gives my dad a card. So now, 3 years later, they have my contact, I have theirs, they contact me. I'm fresh out of school. I've done a few things, right? But nothing this big. They contact me, they ask if I'd like to, pitch a couple designs for them. I say, absolutely. Try to play it cool. I'm like, oh man, this is my shot. And they had, there's a bunch of other concept artists working on it, some really awesome names in the industry. I do a few sketches for them. I don't think it's quite at the quality everyone's looking for, but they show those sketches to Ryan Murphy, and he's like, that's the design. And so then they hired me on, and the rest is history. So yeah, that's a design I did. It's out in film. That kind of got me my start. That got me into the American Horror Story and kind of opened the gates from there.
Nice. And it's this guy, or it's a version of that.
It's a version of so this is like, after some refinement, I'm working with David Anderson and Heather. I'm working with Ryan Murphy, the director. Yeah. We're kind of honing it in, playing with things that work with the script. I'm also working closely with Lou Eric, who's the costume designer for the show. She's incredible. She actually just won Emmy for Ratchet.
This design, I was thinking, is like, oh hey, it's very. It feels like kind of like a Marvel, villain character type thing.
Yeah.
Like Mephisto, but with horns instead of the widow's peak, right?
Oh yeah. Well, Marvel has it down. I mean, they have one of the most incredible teams, and it's exactly the kind of design challenges I'm talking about. It's like all their costume designers have a real good grip on the world of fashion and why, that makes what you wear so successful, right?
Yeah.
But then they got to bring in like, the fantasy element, the fantastical nature of comic book designs, and they married them like no one has ever done. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Looks like Brian commented without saying anything, so that's weird. But your dad just chimed in saying, "Yay!"
Awesome. What's up, Dad? I love his profile picture.
Yes. With that, so many other things, followed, and I'll just start springing up some designs, and we can start chatting with them. But these are the designs that I really gravitated towards, and I'd imagine from Scream Queens, your work on like American Horror Story was pretty self-evident. I mean, I love this design. It's very Motel Hell.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, is there anything you can talk about this like what were they looking for? Just grotesque from the get go, or just grotesque chic? Because you got one guy with pecs and abs, and the other guy not so chic.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you spot those differences. That's pretty funny you say that. So this one actually, I can't take a ton of the credit for the design. They had most of this figured out and already at the prosthetic stage. But it was more so kind of figuring out, like in the script, the whole idea is like the Piggy Man is like sewing together like different pieces of different pigs in various states of, decomposing, as pleasant as that. And then like, other elements, like one of the designs is like sticks through the head. Some of them I incorporated like kind of more cheesy, like Halloween masks in there. So you can kind of say I'm kind of playing with some of these ideas. But what's interesting is these are actually paintovers of photos of the actor who's actually on set. So it's like production goes so fast in television. They already have some of the prosthetics made. There's another one that's up on my art station where you can see like, oh God, all right, how do I describe this? There's like a sheet of abs, but they're like pig nipples. I don't know if you made it in the show. This is like so horrendous. But like the idea is like the killer like cut the, belly of a pig and, wore it that way, I guess. So I'm like, yeah, I'll design that, of course. Yeah, like pig nipple, sheet. Right. Okay, so it's like they're already filming. They already have prosthetics being made, this is side note, this is super cool. I'm at AFX Studio. I'm designing on a computer while right next to me is the actual makeup department sculpting in actual clay.
Wow,
which
that's
is like,
cool to see it in real time.
Oh, it's awesome. I sat next to Glenn Eisner, who's like a very renowned traditional sculptor and just a fucking master in sorry, can I cuss on this? Is that okay?
Oh, fuck no. I don't want to hear that potty mouth talk. Shit, man. Yeah, I don't care.
It's so friggin', it's like so faked in. I forget sometimes. Anyhow, so anyhow, with that being said, fucking awesome. I'm sitting next to these traditional sculptors. They're in clay. I'm doing the concepts in digital clay. And so we're taking pictures of like the pig being sculpted, and I'm using the prosthetics with painting and photo bashing with pictures from the set, and it's just like a crazy schedule. Yeah, super fun stuff. But yeah, so it's just trying out different versions. Like you said, there's the more chic version and the more, deranged serial killer version, which you got to try them both. American Horror Story.
If it's the same actor, for both of those shots, it's like, he kind of let himself go in a short amount of time,
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I could imagine like in one shot, they're like, all right, this is a little more not as like sloppy Texas Chainsaw. Like there's like the disgusting element to horror, right?
Right.
And then there's also kind of like the refined, more like psychological. Maybe in one of them, he's like, here's the more psychological. And the other one is just he lets himself go. He lets his stomach hang out. I could imagine something like that. He's an actor, right?
Yeah. It's okay. You don't have to suck in your gut the whole time. I know it's Hollywood, but come on now.
Right. It's horror. You get a break.
That's not what they did in the 70s, dude. They just let themselves go.
Yeah.
That's how you got Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That one, man.
Yeah. Besides, they were eating a lot of barbecue, so the weight had to get packed on.
Maybe it's a couple weeks apart in those photos. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Working in that environment too, where you're working on one thing, just kind of curtailing some different designs that they're already sculpting different versions of, and they're already working on stuff on set. I mean, the synergy is just got to be both amazing, but also nerve-wracking.
Yeah, oh yeah. Dude, especially when I was kind of first starting off, and it's like, you don't exactly know where your skill set is. It's getting stretched. You're using paint and photos. They need you to design, but you're working with designers who have 2 decades on you. You learn a lot, but like you're constantly up against your expertise. Yeah, I grew fast. I'm really appreciative of it. But yeah, speaking just like everyone coordinating, kind of working together. So imagine this, even pre-pandemic, there's like sets around the world. There's all these different departments. Like when a TV show is being made, not everyone's in the same room. It's like the writers have their place, the costume designers have theirs, the production designers. And as a concept artist, I kind of find myself in between like all parties because everyone wants to say on the design before it's realized, right?
Right.
So then it becomes like this like really interesting game of like, okay, I want to please everyone. And here's the other tricky part. A lot of the stuff I do, I'm handing it off to like VFX, so it's like a 3D model and it needs to get textured and animated and all these things. So I work a lot in 3D, so I have to like keep that in mind. Okay, so it's like I'm trying to keep them pleased from a technical angle, but I'm trying to get like all the artistic parties excited about how it presents itself on screen. But I'm trying to do like justice for like what the writers have come up with. It's fascinating. Everyone has like input that like I wouldn't have thought of. So it's like a writer's input is going to be so specific compared to a costume designer's like much more worried about like, okay, what's the fitting? How does it move and flow? Writers are more like, like we want to make sure that this like hits our story. That's like the foundation of everything. Yeah, just to give like some examples. So yeah, it's very coordinated. It's like an absolute clusterfuck, but it's art, so it should be that way.
Yeah. It's absolutely, spectacular to watch the creative process and how much work and, input and notes, have to go into it. I mean, at the same time of doing all this, your communication skills have got to, be expanded upon just exponentially, I'd imagine, too.
Kind of, dude. It's funny because, all right, so I'm like very antisocial to begin with. And then I go to school and I'm behind a computer for 14 to 16 hours every day, no weekends.
Right.
3 years. And I'm ejected out into the professional world. So I lost all my social skills. Like, because, everyone going to party to college and is like partying, and I didn't do that. So I had like, all my communication is like technical Maya stuff or like, figure drawing. So I lost all my social skills, which like really crippled me in the film industry.
Ooh.
I have like some embarrassing stories about that. But anyhow, yeah. So like, dude, to this day, I have a friend who I worked with at a company I helped found. And I'll run really important emails by her. Just tell me like, I sound professional in this.
Right.
So yeah, dude, the social aspect can't be understated enough. It's a hardcore skill. It is.
Yeah, it really is. And so many artists are natural introverts.
Yeah, like all of us, dude.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's some of us that kind of go between that are introverted to work on their art, and then extrovert to kind of show off the art. But
yeah.
but it seems like introvert is the foundation.
Yeah, for sure.
And
well, dude, I'm a little surprised that like there's an art like you're an artist. You wanted to start like a podcast. Like you're kind of a rarity, right?
I don't think I'm a rarity. I know a lot of artists that are very social, but when they're working on their art, they're focused on that. That is the thing that they do, and then they can depart and move on and go go do the social thing, and sometimes it's at great pains, sometimes not so much, but just depends. Is there some kind of little frequency beeping coming? I don't know if it's coming in on my end.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. I think it's on your end, though.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that is.
Sorry, guys. We're riddled with technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're having all kinds of cool technical issues. I don't think it's the computer, and I don't know where it's. Huh. Sorry about that. I've got a little Arctic air thing going across the way, so I think it's screaming that it's low on fluid. That's my little portable air conditioner. So
it needed to be low, for the 50
yeah. Sorry about it. I'm kind of caged in. So if my head explodes, that's fine. We're just reenacting scenes from Scanners.
I mean, that would make a good podcast show. Not to celebrate your demise or anything, but that'd be an intense podcast show.
Yeah, but yeah, so it sounds like thrust upon like the corporate world doing the design. Oh, thanks, hon. My producer just came in and she turned off the air thing. It was bothering her too.
What are producing for?
Yeah. But it's so interesting that communication is such a big thing, because in art, communicating ideas, so many things can get lost in translation, because oral communication is one language, but visual art is a completely different language.
Oh, dude, you've probably experienced this too, where it's like you have the epiphany, you know what the design is, and you're all about it. You're like, I know the solution to the design problem. And you go to, whoever it is, your client, your friend, your co-founder, whatever it is, you're like, all right, I have it. But then when you put it into words, it sounds, have you ever had that before? Like, it just sounds stupid. Yeah. You're like, really?
Yeah, up here, it's so impactful, it's great, it's amazing, it's going to change your life. And then you convey that to your partner or your friend, and you're just like sitting there, yeah, dude, have some more coffee. Why don't you, or better yet, the ones that know you, go ahead, sketch it out. Don't bother, talking about it, because you're just verbally you're just not going to deliver. So
yeah, 100%. Oh, that's got me a few times in my career too. I have a really funny one that's actually fits really well with COFOH. Okay, stop me if I say something I shouldn't. I don't know if there's been any announcements for the COFOH beer glass art. It's a collaboration with Outworlds Brewing.
Yeah, we're talking about it. I don't think anything is like really top secret in our camp. So
okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. So we're doing a collaboration with Outworlds Brewery in Longmont, which they're an incredible company. You should check them out. super cool. I've been there. We're gonna go there sometime while I'm in Colorado.
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing some beer art with them. They're doing like a special brew with it, and so I did the artwork for like the beer glass. And there's going to be like a limited series run with it, right? Okay, so my parents are kind of coming up with like what the design is, right? The Festival of Horror founders, and so they're kind of batting ideas back and forth. They're like, okay, we know it needs to have like scream queens, vampires, and beer. And I'm like, okay, I like those elements. I'm going to work with those. So I'm like thinking on it. I'm like, I got it. I have the design. So I like super into it. I go to my parents, you know, they're working hard on the Festival of Horror. I'm like, okay, I have the design. You guys ready for this? It's going to be vampires, scream queens, and beer. And they're like, wait.
Duh.
Yeah, wait, we stole this to you like a week ago. I'm like, oh yeah, but that's just the words. Just wait for the artwork. And they're like, God, we trust you.
Yeah. Hey, looks like your dad just chimed in. You know, what do you prefer? Like creature design, costume design? You know, what's your favorite of each that you've created? Yeah. Any other personal item or property?
I appreciate the softball. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, I prefer scream queens, vampires, and beer. No, what are the two? Like creatures and costumes?
Yeah, creatures and costumes. Like, what do you prefer? And then, you know, do you have a personal, like, you know, a preference to either of those? But also, you know, is there like a property that you are into as well that you worked on that you really like? Because, you know, I mean, we still got a bunch of art to go through too. You know, where you've worked on like Godzilla versus Kong, which I absolutely love, and you know, Mandalorian, which has really grown on me. The show's grown on me.
Excellent to hear. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the question. Okay, it'd be very hard to pick, right? It's like seasons. So I actually just did like quite a bit of creature design between a couple Netflix properties and then just like some personal pieces. And believe it or not, actually today I just signed some paperwork with a digital fashion company. So I'm about to go like even beyond costumes, like into the world of digital fashion, which is kind of exploding right now. So I'm like thrilled about that. It's more like seasons of life. You know, I couldn't imagine a world without creatures and monsters and, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
Or without, you know, like high-end fashion, Alexander McQueen, couture, you know, those kinds of worlds. I really like the intersection between the two, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Well, you know, bringing up like the Mandalorian, you tackled some design for Jawas, and now, you know, we talked off camera a little bit that, you know, sometimes designs, you know, make it or don't make it, you know, to the final realized, you know, film or TV series. Was this something that was on screen?
I don't think so. You don't have to tell me. This is embarrassing, but I haven't like fully seen it through. Sorry. Oh, okay.
No worries. I think there's like one or two episodes where they're on Tatooine where you usually see Jawas. So it's really interesting to see like that design because you're usually, you know, because Jawas, as everybody knows, are more just like kind of sand wanderers. You know, they're the shorter versions than the Tusken Raiders, you know, that are the taller versions of you know, sand people there. And but here it's like, oh, there's some, you know, there's different class systems. It suggests, you know, those designs suggest. But yeah, it seems like you have a real affinity for fabric and how things drape and how things, you know, are worn and stuff too. So I can see, you know, your interest in the fashion industry, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Dude, I'm like thrilled that you see all that in the concept art. It's exactly how we were thinking about it. Yeah, so my time on Mandalorian was like actually incredibly brief. I was kind of a costume illustrator stand-in. I wish the contract had gone longer, but I worked with Joseph Porro on the Mandalorian. And he was just blasting designs at me, like getting through them. You could see some of the Mando. So basically I have like a mannequin, and he has like all of these swatches of fabric that are like exotic. I think he's buying a lot of them in like China. He's like a a super eccentric costume designer type, right?
Yeah.
So he has all these slices of fabric. He's like, all right, I want to see this fabric on the mannequin, and I'm like,
cool.
Okay, like how do we? And he's like, you're the illustrator, get me there. And I'm like, all right, man. So I whip out my iPhone, I start taking pictures of these swatches of fabric, and I start populating them. So you can see the Jawas as well, especially the like kind of pink female one.
Right.
That's like fabric that's like outsourced from some like foreign distributor that I'm like digitized. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you can see, like, that fabric. So yeah, the idea is a little bit like, you see Jawas iconically as they are, and I don't want to mess with that.
Right.
But the idea is like, okay, what if like a particular tribe of Jawas, I don't know, sells a few extra droids, has a bit of extra money, they want that money to go to their, wow, I don't know what the social hierarchies of Jawas are, but whatever the equivalent of like a Jawa wife is, or maybe like a matriarch. I liked the idea of her being like, maybe like 6 inches taller than all the others, and she has a little extra wealth. So she like puts it into a bit of exotic materials, and you can see like the hood is like, like more of a fashionable piece as opposed to like a utilitarian one. So that's kind of the thinking there. I didn't want to fuck with the original iconic design of the Jawa too much, but just to, add a bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of the general thinking behind it.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's and as a concept designer, like any given day, you could be jumping back and forth, between something like that, that's more costume design, in concept, and then more something more grotesque, like Yippee here, that's he's had a better day. The nice thing is he gave him a speed hole so that there's less resistance when he's running downhill. So that's good.
He's a motorcyclist. Yeah. He's devilishly handsome. I don't know if you recognize him at all.
That's true. I he does have these Brad Pitt, very, good looks.
Yeah, I know. I've been told. Yeah. Thank you. No, I'm making fun. This is okay. This is interesting. So this is for American Horror Story. This is, help me out. What season is this? Shit,
I don't know. The Horror Story series is something that's a little lost on me. I'm sorry to say.
This is Live Undead. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. It's but a name only apparently, because
I know.
I did say at the beginning of this, I watched the She-Ra cartoon series. Come on,
Oh yeah, I want to hear about that too. I'm getting into anime for something else. Anyhow, okay, real quick on this. So, okay, I think it's for American Horror Story Run, if I remember. I've been on like 4 seasons, and it kind of blends together. Sorry. Okay, so with this one, so they have these designs. This is, again, I got contracted by AFX Studio. We're working on these ghost designs. They're working on the prosthetics while I'm doing the concept art in 3D. So what's interesting is previously, one of my first jobs, like a 9 to 5, one of the few I've had, was a studio called Gentle Giant Studios. And they've done a lot of like you might know.
I'm aware of them. Yeah.
Cool. They've done a lot of toys and maquettes and like statues and things and like pop culture. They're huge at Comic-Con. Incredible company. So I worked with them for a little over a year, and I was one of their digital sculptors, and all of their digital stuff was being 3D printed. So that's kind of just another skill set that I've kind of had. And so I've always kind of been like, okay, there's some really interesting ways to bring sculpture, specifically 3D sculpture, in the concept art. And one of those ways is with 3D scanning. So this is much more mainstream now, right? Like I could take a 3D scan just using my iPhone. But back then it was, this is like 8 years ago. Yeah. There weren't a lot of concept artists actually using the entirety of a 3D pipeline. And I'm fortunate that I have a little bit more of that 3D background. Okay, so I'm at Gentle Giant, and they're testing a new 3D scanning system. Sorry, I'm trying not to name it because I don't know how proprietary it is. But essentially, it's just, it's like one of those arrays with 50 cameras, and it takes a 3D scan of a person. So they're testing, and they're like, is there anyone want to come back here and test it with us? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I go back there, And I like stand and they take a 3D scan of me and they're like, all right, cool. They do some testing stuff. They're like, here, you can have the file. It's a 3D scan of you. And I'm like, cool, awesome. I don't know what I'll ever do with it. But like, yeah, hell yeah, it's cool. Okay. So fast forward a year to American Horror Story, and they're like, we're designing these ghosts, and one of them has a shotgun blast through the head. And you don't know who the actor is. So you can just use like a mannequin. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna use myself. So that image there is actually a 3D scan of me with a shotgun blast through my face.
Very GQ. Yeah. So great.
Exactly.
Good job, sir. Yeah. Your dad just said that was from the Roanoke season. So
okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So maybe 3 or 4 seasons ago. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we worked closely with a VFX company called Fuse VFX. So I was doing the designs for the prosthetic sculptors traditionally, but I was also handing off the 3D assets to the VFX company. So that was an interesting challenge. And for one of the ghosts, I got to use my own face to shotgun blast. So it was fun. It all comes together.
Yeah, man, that came together really nice. From that, doing like kind of gore, concept designs for that, but going to something like Godzilla versus Kong, like this cute little critter, this is what I dream of, like crabs in the crotch, but being that size, holy crap, man.
It'd be a lot to deal with.
Yeah, this is amazing. So, going from like Star Wars to Godzilla. I mean, what a transition! But it seems like both of these designs would be in a close proximity of time. What's it like wrapping your head around, something like this that has to have anatomy and functionality and everything like that?
Yeah, 100%. That's a cool question. So I think, okay, if I have my timeline right, because dude, it's like every day. I think Godzilla. Let's see, Star Wars would have been 2017, I believe.
Okay.
Godzilla Kong, I actually did in 2018. So this is about 3 years old. Which
okay.
It's like the typical concept artist story, right? It's like we can't release artwork until the movie's out, but we did the artwork like 3 years ago. So it's always like, I don't know how I feel about sharing this. Anyhow. Okay. So I was actually doing another contract. I was on a video game at DNEG, and I was like halfway through, and then I get an email from Studio ADI, which I had been in talks with them, from some other projects. Nothing ever worked out, but I knew I really wanted to work with them because they're absolutely incredible. It's owned by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff, and they've done a lot of the most iconic creatures today. They did Alien versus Predator, which is like in their main showroom. It's brilliant. So they email me and they're like, hey, we think we have another position. We think you'd be perfect for it. It's Godzilla versus Kong. And I was like, sorry, I have to end my contract at DNEG and I got to go over here. Sorry, it's Godzilla versus Kong. And what's funny is they like totally understood. So they're like, yeah, we get it. If you could just work from home on a little bit. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So I kind of finished up my contract on the side. I go to Studio ADI and I'm working Godzilla Kong's kind of a dream job. I'm like at a desk. I look over to like the side of me and there's like the Pred Alien, like maquette, like next to me. And I like look to the left and there's like every iconic creature. There's like a bust of, Pennywise itself.
Nice.
Like my other favorite ginger, like that sort of thing. So it's like, it's incredible. It's like unlike any office you've been at. Okay. So, what's also awesome about that job was right before me, there's another legendary creature designer who did a lot of the designs that kind of helped me flesh out the rock creature. His name's Ken Barthelemy, and he's just absolutely fucking brilliant, dude. Definitely like one of the most senior concept artists and also responsible for a lot of the iconic creature design that we see in films. Nice. Highly recommend everyone checks out his portfolio. So he's doing like other creatures. There's a whole mess of creatures in the film, and just in the universe, there's going to be creatures that the world never sees because everyone designed them. Anyhow, so one of the kind of final creatures, as all the kind of pre-production is wrapping, is this little rock monster.
Yeah.
It's like, one of the very last ones, which, he has 6 full seconds of screen time, which is very exciting. I don't say that, in jest. I was like thrilled.
Yeah.
Like, right. Okay. So they're like, all right, we have this like kind of last one, this is 2018. I'm still a little junior. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to design whatever creature I can. So they have some designs from Ken Barthelmy. I'm working closely with Tom Woodruff, one of the owners of the studio, who has like 30 years of creature design, right? And then I kind of bring to the table ZBrush skill set, which is like, a 3D sculpting program. And they're kind of used to more like traditional illustration. So Tom's sitting next to me, I'm in ZBrush. He's like, well, I've worked with 3D before. It's kind of slow. And I'm like, well, just, give me a shot. Let's just see. So I whip this thing out. There's like some of the early sketches on my ArtStation, in like a few hours. And he sits down and he's like, oh, holy shit, you have like something that fast? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, well, let's look at like some of the, like you said, we have to be worried about the anatomy, the animation, things like that from the get-go.
Yeah.
So it's like, we wanted to have like that, like that crab mechanism, like around the mouth, like the.
The pinchers. Yeah.
The pinchers, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of describing that to me. So I'm like, okay. So I like slot in a couple triangles and I just move them around like in real time. And he's like, oh, holy shit, 3D is awesome. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, because what a great tool to like showcase. Like, yeah, this is how you guys animate it. This is how the physics can potentially work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's it's just a throwback to like working in traditional clay. It's like when you have an armature, in clay that. The wireframe underneath, you can break it and do a movement. But it's cleaner, it's more versatile, it's faster. So we're doing that. I sell them on the 3D, and we spend a good 4 weeks designing this guy for 6 whole seconds of screen time. It was awesome.
That's pretty cool. It sounds like you're able to work with some really big influential people. When you were just starting out, like what was who are your biggest influences?
Oh man, I have a lot of them. Biggest influences. Yeah, I mean, from a macro view, I mean, like when I was like really young, right? Not even in Hollywood, like people I'm looking at. Two that come to mind. I'm sure you're familiar with the illustrator and novelist Gerald Brom.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I know Brom.
Like personally?
No, not personally. Like, I would send emails. He doesn't send them back. That type of thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar. Trust me. He's probably kind of a recluse. Anyhow, he's legendary. He's phenomenal in my opinion. He's one of the greatest designers. I read The Plucker when I was very young, and the rest is history. Let's see. Tim Burton obviously comes to mind. Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo. My mom really introduced me to those two. Those have been incredibly, profound in my kind of just thinking and, overall just, the feeling I get when designing. From the fashion world, even from an early age, I gravitated toward Alexander McQueen. Kind of brought in a little bit of a macabre twist to the traditional kind of couture fashion. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And then more in the modern day, kind of like concept artists, in the same field. So some mentors and some other people I look at. One of my main mentors is Jared Morantz. He's done a lot of the like villains in the Marvel and DC universes. So this is incredible. He's the designer of both Darkseid in DC and Thanos in the Avengers.
That's appropriate because they're
yin and yang.
They're basically different versions of each other in each universe.
Yeah. So I mean, what a career, right? Like both of those. So anyhow, he was a mentor of mine. I took a lot of his classes. He kind of put in the extra work with me. I always bat stuff off him, ask him what he thinks of my stuff. He's very brutal. He has a good opinion. Yeah, definitely him. Man, I have so many other mentors I could list. But the other kind of big influence for me, I don't know him personally, but a concept artist by the name of Maciej Kuciara. He's like a modern day Renaissance man. He'll bring in, like anime illustration to like oil painting to like hardcore 3D and just do like the most absolutely incredible, because he has that foundation that so many people, myself included, are really missing, But he was also on Godzilla versus Kong, and he did a lot of the Mecha Godzilla stuff.
Oh, cool.
Being phenomenal. So yeah, just off the top of my head, that's kind of a lot of the influences.
Man, that's cool. The we've got about 10, 15 minutes left, but I wanted to make sure we had time to go through some of the other designs that we've loaded up here. So I think this is is this a personal project you're working on?
Oh shit, this is funny. It's probably been long enough that I can talk about this real quick.
If you don't want to, if you can't, don't worry about it. This is pretty stellar.
It should be okay because I don't know that China can do anything with American citizens. Anyhow, this was actually for a Chinese company doing a miniature. Here, sorry, one sec. My computer says it's about to die, but it's plugged in. One sec.
Oh, that's weird. Yep, get that thing plugged in.
Yeah, I don't want to lose you. Sorry, we just had to end with at least one more technical difficulty. Okay, so sorry, I got sidetracked.
No worries.
So yeah, this was for a collectible miniature company in China.
Oh, cool.
It was just kind of a in my free time, I thought it'd be a cool job. They had a horror kind of thing. Okay, they wanted me to go one direction, and I was like, yeah, but I think this other direction is cool, and that's what you see there. They didn't like it, so they just cut me off and stopped communication suddenly. So I was like, okay, whatever, and I just published the work.
Oh, okay, all right.
So yeah, that's the whole thing. But I was like, I like this design. Right? It's Resident Evil, but a little less campy. So I was like,
it's really cool. And then I really like this fan art you did of Joker. Joker wise. So I love the little centipede legs coming out of them. Yeah, that is fucking terrified, is what that is.
Yeah, I thought it'd be an awesome design. It was not even fan art to begin with. I just like the idea of okay, again, this is one of those things where it's not as cool when you say it verbally, cooler when you say it. I like the idea of centipede possession. It sounds so freaking weird. But what would it's there's all these great poltergeist or possession movies. Yeah. And very few of them, in my opinion, actually got the possession they all, I don't know, either they don't show a lot at all, which is probably in their benefit, or it just gets really campy. But there's one that my friend introduced me to that's fucking brilliant. And of course I forget the name while we're live on air, but it's the one where it's they're possessed by an ancient snake demon, and it's an old lady. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What is it, Lair the White Worm? That's one that comes to mind, but I don't think there's no possession in it.
It has a really generic name. You wouldn't know it's about a snake demon. But okay, so on paper you're okay, a snake demon, they're gonna just make this design so campy and lame. That's the trick with horror, right? It's the easiest genre to get wrong. There's more terrible horror than anything else. But in my humble opinion, the very best pinnacles of the human experience expressed in art are some horror films.
Right.
Better than any other genre. So
I would agree.
It's a tough genre. Anyhow, there's this one generic poltergeist film. They have a design where it's an ancient snake demon with an old lady. And it's some of the most brilliant design work I've ever fucking seen in my life. And I forget the name of the film. Anyhow, so I was inspired by that. I was like, okay, imagine an ancient, centipede god. That sounds so stupid, but design-wise. So I wanted it to be subtle. It's those legs would come up out of you and almost be, insects have such an interesting kind of movement to them. It's oh, this is where my language is gonna fail me. This sounds terrible. I'm so sorry, but it's almost sensual, right? It's
no, I understand what you're doing. It's got this organic creepy flow to it.
Flow, the fluidity to it.
When I think of centipedes, I mean they you've got all those legs and those body segments that move so seamlessly, quite like a snake. A snake doesn't have those legs, but it is one of the creepiest things to look at.
Yeah, it is.
but it's also one of the most awe-inspiring. So, you know, yeah, I think to bring that into that design really lends itself to what you were saying with the sensuality, but it's so off-putting at the same time.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And that's, I mean, that's like the dichotomy of sexuality, and that's why a lot of horror is so successful, because it successfully hits on that dichotomy. So anyhow, that's a lot of the influences, probably more than anyone needed to know, but that's what I was trying to achieve, you know.
There's kind of that fluidity and eroticism that kind of juxtaposes, and it's such an interesting balance to maintain. But you know, going from that to something that I just find this beautiful, just plain beautiful, nothing grotesque, but it's got its basis in like fungus, like a fungus entity or something.
Yeah, definitely. Man, this is kind of old at this point, but I was like reading about basically, like in a nutshell, the intelligence of fungi systems. So I don't know if you've ever seen like in like a high-speed video about like a fungi searching for food, and it's like they will try all possible paths to the food all at once. So they're like really efficient in a manner. So it's kind of like, okay, what if you combine that with like, you know, some semblance of like human sentience, and then that had several billion years to evolve, and then it got involved in like got out of like a Starfleet Federation, you know, something Star Trek, right? And so then it's like, okay, how would that entity come and interact with humans? And I was like, well, they'd probably, you know, they're much more dimorphic than humans, and they could probably shift their, you know, bodies more than we could. Like we can do a few things. We can like weight lift a lot, put on a lot of weight, or we can, I don't know, just plastic surgery.
Yeah, we can poop and lose a lot of weight.
There you go. That's another option. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry for all those at home.
Yeah. All right, we're like already off deep in the woods, so anyone's still listening. So yeah, that's the whole idea. They would like shift to something that's a little more human, but you know, not quite. They'd like don a little bit of fashion that still is akin to their culture. You know. Anyhow, yeah, it's the thought process behind just a personal piece, just to, you know, pump the portfolio a little bit.
Nice, that's cool. And then, you know, I really enjoyed this design too. I have no idea what this is. I love that the face and the teeth, and it looks like it's got these dead eyes that just kind of look off, you know, straight. You know, not even straight ahead, just kind of off at two different angles.
Yeah, you have no idea. There's hollow cavities. Yeah. This is for a film called Captive State, which is by the director of Planet of the Apes 2. His name is Rupert Wyatt, if I remember. I'm so sorry. It's been like 7 years. But also one of the first films I was on, I got recommended by another mentor of mine, Jared Krzyzewski, who's also a brilliant artist, worked on Godzilla versus Kong. Go check out his portfolio. He recommended me for this project. They brought me on. I did a bunch of alien designs. None of it made it to the final film, but I learned a lot. It was a blast. Yeah, that's where this pinky thing comes from.
Nice. That's cool. And then, you know, last but not least, your favorite, you know, fictional, oh, maybe not fictional one day, household pet.
Oh yeah, dude. I wanted to, like, my parents love cats, and I was like, I want to design what I would have is like, you know, like something house cat size, but that I could like take on a leash. So I was like, this is Spydra, a spider in a hydra.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Spydra. Okay. Yeah.
Dude, when I'm like, you know, downtime in between jobs, and when I say in between, I mean like, you know, I work all day during a job, and then it's like I still want to keep working. So like in the evenings, I'm like, what just comes to mind that would be fun to paint? And things like this just happen.
Man, that's cool. That'll definitely keep you up at night. It's like, is my pet gonna eat me?
Yeah.
Is my pet gonna eat my pet cat? Ah.
Right.
Oh man. So Xander, you know, we're almost out of time. One last question.
Yeah.
What, you know, in film design, what would be your ideal project for you to get to work on?
Damn, dude, you're trying to rap on that. I could talk about this for a long time. All right, ideal project. I'll give it to you super quick. So, okay, a lot of projects, not naming anyone specifically, maybe just a general trend. they more have to do with ideology than they have to do with what actually exists. And I get why. It's because it's much more pleasant to watch, to feel, to engage in. Because harsh reality is harsh, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be very curious to work on something that contends with the very base layer of humanity, which, by the way, all of the classics do. My mind immediately goes to like Dostoevsky, right?
Okay.
Or like even like biblical literature. I'm not necessarily saying that any of these pieces of work are correct about their conclusions about human nature, but they at least are asking the right questions. I would genuinely like to see a return to that in film and television. That's what I'd like to work on. I think a few contemporary people, make passes at it, but it's very controversial, right? And it's a tough time to be controversial in particular ways. So I know it's a little conceptual, but I'd very much be interested in designing something that's such a base level before a modern audience. I would love a challenge.
Nice. Oh, that's very cool. Well, fantastic, Xander. It's been great having you on and being able to chat about your art, your process, and how you tackle creative problems and stuff. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and we can't wait to see more come from you.
Yeah, thank you, dude. It was awesome talking with you, man. Really awesome questions, dude. You have a great format. You're very good at this.
Thanks. It's all the coffee.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it.
Yeah. So for everybody tuning in and watching, make sure to follow Xander. His website streaming at the bottom. It's artstation.com/Xander Smith. So make sure if you like what you see here, he's got tons more there. And Xander, stick around for a few minutes after we sign off. But again, thanks for being so generous with your time.
Yeah, of course, anytime, man. I really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully people got something out of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. I know I did, and it looks like everybody else did as well. And then to everybody out there, thanks for tuning in to our friends over at Hellfire Entertainment. Thanks for broadcasting us on your social media, and of course our friends over at Mutiny Information Cafe. If you're gonna start a revolution, make sure it's fucking caffeinated. And then of course our sponsor, Alien Donut Films, to Bill and Angela over there. Thanks so much for all your support. Our producers here, Stefan Santa Cruz, Amanda Armstrong. And my dear Elise Sargent, who handled some technical difficulties. Thanks so much for all your help, and to everybody else out there, thanks for tuning in. Be good, be kind, help each other out during these tough times, and remember, we love you. Have a good one, everybody, and